Good afternoon. And the first item of business today is portfolio questions. Question 1, Maureen Watt.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what recent discussions it has had with Aberdeenshire Council regarding education issues.
Minister Alistair Allen.
On the 11th of December, the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Lifelong Learning and I met with Aberdeenshire MSPs to discuss the senior phase of Curriculum for Excellence and associated parental concerns in Aberdeenshire. The following day, the Cabinet Secretary also met with the Council's Director of Education and Education Convener to discuss these matters further. Since then, Education Scotland's Director of Inspection has attended Aberdeenshire Council's Education Committee, and my officials in the Scottish Government and Education Scotland continue to work closely with the Council on the development of the Curriculum for Excellence in their schools.
Maureen Watt.
I thank the Minister for that answer. Regarding the concern that parents have in connection with the number of National Qualification 5s which pupils will be able to sit within Aberdeenshire, does the Minister now believe that these issues have been resolved to both the satisfaction of teachers and parents?
Minister.
I am certainly aware of the concerns, as the member alludes to, that have been raised in Aberdeenshire around the planning for the senior phase of Curriculum for Excellence, including in relation to the number of National 5 qualifications. And certainly to help address some of these concerns and develop a greater understanding of the approaches and rationale that is being taken by schools, Aberdeenshire Council set up a senior phase working group around this, which I am glad to say is making progress. And more generally, I am also glad to say that with particularly the announcements in recent weeks by universities about their attitude towards Curriculum for Excellence, I think the understanding and attitude of parents towards the new qualifications is one that's becoming clearer and one that's clearly positive.
Thank you. Supplementary from Nanette Milne.
Thank you. To follow on from that, I have to say that anxious communications are still coming in from parents in Aberdeenshire. So can the Minister, what assurance can he give that children in Aberdeenshire will not in any way have their subject choice compromised following the changes, following the introduction of the new exams? Minister.
Well, I think one of the most important things is that, certainly in Aberdeenshire, I know that the Education Committee in Aberdeenshire Council has made very clear that the needs of individual pupils should be considered in the matter of subject choices. And I think there is an understanding of the need for flexibility. I think there is also an increased appreciation generally that the number of subjects taken in fourth year, while certainly very important, is certainly not the be-all and end-all in terms of the number of qualifications that pupils will come out of school with, or indeed what universities and employers are looking for. But I do welcome the fact that Aberdeenshire Council has indicated the need for flexibility to allow for the needs of individual pupils.
Thank you very much. Question 2, Richard Lyle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government when it last held a joint meeting with the principals of Motherwell, Coatbridge and Cumbernauld colleges and what was discussed.
Thank you. Minister Angela Constance.
Presiding Officer, my colleague, the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Lifelong Learning, last met jointly with the principals of Motherwell, Coatbridge and Cumbernauld colleges on 22nd of March 2012. The meeting discussed how the colleges would work together within the Lanarkshire region. The Cabinet Secretary has also met jointly with the chairs of each college's Board of Management on 18th of April 2012, 11th of September 2012, 28th of November 2012 and 19th of March 2013.
Richard Allen.
Can I thank the Minister for her answer? I on Friday will be visiting Coatbridge College myself. Can the Minister update the Chamber on the current proposal for Motherwell and Cumbernauld colleges to amalgamate, and whether Coatbridge College has reconsidered its position regarding joining in? Does the Minister agree that this campus will give, this joint campus will give students more access to more diverse courses?
Minister.
What I can say to Mr Lyle is, as he knows, Motherwell and Cumbernauld colleges propose to merge with each other and hope to vest by the 1st of November. Earlier discussions, of course, had included Coatbridge College, which concluded that it would prefer to remain as an independent college for the time being. And while there is no proposal by all 4 Lanarkshire colleges to merge into a single college, and while we have no intention as a government of forcing mergers, I do believe that the creation of a regional strategic body for Lanarkshire will represent a very significant step in improving the breadth and quality of learning opportunities in the context of a regional body that will improve the connectivity to the local economy, which will improve opportunities for learners.
Many thanks. Question 3, Hanzala Malik.
Good afternoon. I would like to ask the Scottish Government what assistance it will give the City of Glasgow to help raise levels of education attainment.
Mr Alistair Allen.
It is the responsibility of each local authority to allocate the total financial resources available to it on the basis of local requirements and priorities, including provision to raise educational attainment. In February of this year, Mr Russell wrote to Glasgow to congratulate them on the tremendous work which teachers have been doing to improve outcomes for young people in Glasgow. Between 2007-08 and 2012-13, the resources within the Scottish Government's control increased. The resources within the Scottish Government's control over this period, local government's budget increased by 8.9%. And this demonstrates the strong financial settlements agreed with local government during challenging financial times.
Hanzala Malik.
Thank you for that response. Glasgow City Council has been successful in tackling and raising education attainment in the face of poverty and deprivation. Initiative projects such as nurture groups support children in nurseries and schools and also involve their families. All the evidence shows that poverty is a barrier to education attainment. Given such success in tackling that barrier, would the Scottish Government consider providing additional assistance to support Glasgow's commendable efforts in raising educational standards?
Minister.
Well, I would certainly agree with the member that poverty does represent a barrier to the opportunities and life chances of too many of our young people, and the Government is far from complacent about that. In terms of resources, and it is of course up to Glasgow to allocate those resources, £1.24 billion of revenue is allocated to Glasgow in this 13-14 financial year by the Scottish Government, in addition to £105 million of capital. I don't say that to minimise the scale of the problem, but I hope it does indicate the commitment which the Government has and the view which I would share with the member, which is that nobody should be left out of educational opportunities in life because of poverty.
Thank you. James Dornan.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Well, I share the Cabinet Secretary's welcome for the improvement of the attainment in Glasgow City Council, which I believe most of it was at the lower end of the attainment. Does the Minister agree with me that for Glasgow's young people to flourish, the City must improve attainment dramatically at the top end? And will he outline what action he can take to assist Glasgow City Council in achieving that objective? And does he think that the Government's shift towards preventative spend and early intervention will help raise attainment across Glasgow and throughout Scotland?
Minister.
Well, I do agree with the importance of preventative spend in this respect, and I also would want to make the point that we want to raise attainment at all levels and at all points of the spectrum that exists. I think it's also worth saying that Glasgow has achieved a significant progress in this respect, in that looking at the people who are leaving school without qualifications in the year 2006-07, 10% were leaving without qualifications, something which is reduced to 4.9%. So I think it's about raising attainment at every point in the spectrum that exists, both for high-achieving schools and for schools which, as I have indicated already, communities which face real barriers in the forms of poverty.
Thank you. Question 4, Stuart McMillan.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what assistance it will provide to maintain and improve the fabric of West College Scotland's campuses once the merger takes effect.
Minister Angela Constance.
The funding of individual colleges, including their estate, is a matter for the Scottish Funding Council rather than ministers. However, the Scottish Government announced in December an additional £5 million to support college estates improvements across Scotland. This is separate from and additional to the increase of £61 million we made to the overall college sector budget compared with our original spending plans.
Yes, Stuart McMillan.
thank the Minister for that reply. Now, the West College Scotland campus already has a first-class campus in Clydebank and excellent, but some have suggested dated facilities at the James Watt College campus in Greenock and Reidcare College campus in Paisley. Can the Minister provide an assurance that the Scottish Government will actually have discussions with the Scottish Funding Council, that if a business case were to be brought forward to either invest in the fabric or provide new facilities in Greenock or Paisley, then this will actually be fully and thoroughly examined? Minister.
I thank Mr McMillan for his question, and it is the right of every MSP in this chamber to advocate for their constituency or their region. I have every confidence in the Scottish Funding Council, which, as I said in my original answer, is the body responsible for supporting capital development in the college sector. We as a government have already put additional resources to the table, and I'm sure that the Scottish Funding Council will look closely at the priority which it can attach to any such proposal. It is, of course, no secret, however, that the UK Government's Swindon Reduction of Scotland's Block Grant has severely constrained our desire to fund capital projects, including in the college sector, and a Scottish Parliament with powers to raise its own revenue would not be constrained in this way.
Thank you. Question 5 from Murdo Fraser has been withdrawn and an explanation has been provided. Question 6, Claire Adamson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what progress has been made with college regionalisation.
Minister Angela Constance.
We are making excellent progress. Outcome agreements have been introduced to make plain what we expect in return for our investment, thereby strengthening accountability. The Post-16 Education Bill, which will introduce improvements to college governance, is progressing through Parliament. 2 college mergers were completed last year. 4 are aiming to vest by 1st of August this year, with a further 4 on the 1st of November.
Claire Adamson.
Thank the Minister for her answer. She will know that both Motherwell and Cumbernauld colleges have held public consultations regarding the proposed mergers, and I congratulate both colleges on their efforts to ensure that all interested parties are fully engaged in this consultation. Does the Minister agree that it is vital to underpin the efforts of all our colleges with timely legislation that supports our colleges' ambitions for further education in Scotland?
Minister.
Yes, I agree with Claire Adamson in the 2 points she made about the importance of consultation and also about the importance of the Post-16 Education Scotland Bill, because the purpose of that bill is to underpin our very ambitious college reforms, which will indeed deliver benefits for learners, the economy, and of course from 2014-15 onwards, efficiencies of £50 million. And as we are seeing in Lanarkshire and in many other places, college leaders are seizing the opportunities presented by regionalisation, leading to an unprecedented programme of change for the benefits of learners.
Liz Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. The Minister just quoted some figures for some of that process. Could the Minister tell us when the Scottish Government estimates that the whole of regionalisation process will be complete, and therefore when the full costs will be known?
Minister.
Well, I'm sure as a keen advocate of regionalisation, which I know that Ms Smith isn't, and it's we in this benches that are very much pushing modernisation of the college sector. But nonetheless, I know she takes a keen interest in this area, follows it closely, and much of the progress will indeed be determined by colleges themselves and the choices that they make on whether to merge or not. Some colleges have chosen not to merge at this point in time, but they may well review that decision as time proceeds. Nonetheless, as a government, we are determined not to take our foot off the gas and to proceed as fast as is possible, but of course in partnership with the sector.
Thank you very much. Question 7, Stuart Stevenson.
To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with other administrations regarding their education system and what lessons can be learned.
Minister Aileen Campbell.
We are always pleased to learn from other countries' experience in delivering education services. Stuart Stevenson may recall in May of last year that Dr Pasi Salberg, the Director-General for the Centre for International Mobility and Cooperation in Helsinki, spoke to the Scottish Parliament on lessons from Finland on their approach to education. And in December of last year, the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Lifelong Learning met with Leighton Andrews, the Welsh Education Minister, and discussed delivery of education services in Wales. And this was followed by a meeting between officials to look at the Welsh approach to delivering education.
Stuart Stevenson.
I very much welcome the interaction with Finland, Wales and I'm sure a number of other countries. But in particular, can the Minister comment on the Improvement Partnership Programme and how that will improve attainment? And can the Minister provide a guarantee that we will not see the introduction of league tables in Scotland as we have seen elsewhere in the UK?
Minister.
Thank you. The Improvement Partnership Programme is designed to facilitate schools working together, either within or across local authority boundaries. And the schools involved will learn techniques and approaches from each other that have been successful in raising attainment. And we'll be working closely with key stakeholders, including ADES and SLS, to devise the details of the scheme, including the criteria for schools partnering with each other. However, it is clear that crude data comparisons will not be suitable for this purpose. Each relationship will be a long-term one, and it will be of mutual benefit to all of the schools and departments that are involved. Partnership will be voluntary. In direct reply to Stuart Stevenson's point about league tables, in the Cabinet Secretary's speech at Glasgow University in March, he indicated that the right decision was made not to publish league tables in Scotland, and I can guarantee that that will continue.
Hugh Henry.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Minister indicated that partnership would be voluntary. If local authorities show no willingness to participate, how will the Scottish Government actually deliver this commitment? Minister.
The announcement of the Cabinet Secretary's intention to increase and raise attainment by improving partnership and by announcing the Improvement Partnership Programme, which is designed to facilitate schools working together to raise that attainment that is so desperately needed across the whole of Scotland and to learn from areas which are doing good work. I think that has been warmly welcomed by ADES, by SLS and others, as well as a good, positive and proactive approach. And I think it's in that spirit of working in partnership together to raise attainment, which is something that everyone wants to do, regardless of whether you're a practitioner, a politician or a parent. And I think that partnership approach is crucial and will be something that is welcomed, and it's something that, in that spirit, that will enter into these discussions with schools and teachers.
Thank you. Question 8, Mary Fee.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what support it gives to prisoners wanting to study for educational qualifications.
Minister Alistair Allen.
As part of its approach to offender management, the Scottish Prison Service provides a wide range of supports to help offenders achieve qualifications. This includes class subject teaching, access to information and communications technology equipment, designated study times, one-to-one tuition and peer support where appropriate. For those studying at a higher level, additional supports include telephone tutorials and tutor visits provided by the Open University Scotland. The extent of such support will vary between individual prisoners depending upon their personal learning needs and the type of study involved. Specialist assistance is also available for those identified as having a barrier to learning and for those for whom English is a second language.
Mary Fee.
I thank the Minister for his answer. However, a few weeks ago I met up with some ex-offenders, and one raised the issue with me that if you are on an educational programme, you receive £6 per week. Yet those carrying out manual labour, such as building picnic benches, can receive up to £18 per week. Would the Minister agree with me that this is a disincentive for education in prisons and does nothing to rehabilitate and reduce reoffending?
Thank you. Well done. Minister.
Well, I think there would always be a starting point, which is that we want to motivate any offender to be part of a learning programme. I don't think motivation through money is necessarily the only means of that, and indeed every evidence would seem to be that the offenders taking part in these programmes do so because they genuinely wish to learn. I have visited educational facilities in Perth Prison and was impressed by the degree to which that motivation existed. There is, for instance, it's also worth saying, a considerable intervention now taking place to identify some of the problems educationally which offenders bring to prison with them in the form of literacy, and I believe that that will further encourage people to take part in these programmes.
Question 9, Mark MacDonald.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how it ensures that local authorities meet their duty to ensure the safety of pupils travelling between home and school.
Minister Alistair Allen.
The Scottish Government believes that the safety of pupils when travelling to school is of paramount importance and must be maintained. Achieving safe transport routes to school is a matter for individual local authorities.
I thank the Minister for his response. The Minister may be aware of proposals by the Labour-led administration in Aberdeen City Council to close Bramblebury Primary School, which serves the regeneration area of Cummings Park, and merge it into the existing Quarry Hill School. This would result in the children from the Bramble-Bray catchment area having to cross Provost Fraser Drive, a road which has seen an 18% increase in the morning traffic since 2010 and has also, regrettably, seen a number of accidents, including pedestrian fatalities. While the Minister cannot comment on individual cases, can I ask him what advice he would offer to my constituents who are keen to ensure that safety considerations are appropriately considered during the consultation process?
Minister.
Well, the member is of course right to say that I can't comment on an ongoing consultation, but it's fair to say that more generally the Government has been active on related issues to school transport, and the publication of a guide to improving school transport safety was produced in December 2010. It's primarily for use by Scottish local authorities, and it includes legal obligations and responsibilities, information on casualty risk and on the school journey, and 10 ways that local authorities and others can reduce risk and improve safety of pupils. If Aberdeen City Council proposes to close any of its schools, it is required to follow the process in place under the Schools Consultation Act 2010, and the member should certainly encourage his constituents to participate in the consultation process so that people can fully make the Council aware of their views.
Thank you. Question 10 in the name of Paul Martin has not been lodged, but an explanation has been provided. Question 11, Margaret McCulloch.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how it is monitoring the introduction of the Employability Fund.
Minister Angela Constance.
Access to pre-employment skills training is essential both for those nearest the labour market and for those who face barriers to employment. Under the auspices of the Employability Fund, Skills Development Scotland has contracted a network of providers to deliver this training, ensuring it reflects local labour market conditions. Skills Development Scotland will monitor and review the delivery of its contracted training against the objectives of the wider Employability Fund. This will include regular monitoring of trainees' starts and achievements and is consistent with its usual approach to monitoring the performance of national training programmes.
Margaret McCulloch.
I thank the Minister for her answer. Across the Chamber, we all agree that there should be a relentless focus on youth employment, and I would emphasise that again here today. However, I would ask the Minister how the Employability Fund and the Government's wider skills strategy will help low-skilled unemployed people of all ages, including adults who are trying to re-enter a difficult labour market and people who have been recently made redundant.
Minister.
Margaret McCulloch makes a fair point. Of course, as the Minister for Youth Employment and part of the Government's wider strategy, we of course agree with her that there should be an unrelenting focus on young people who, despite the very positive movement in the right direction of the youth unemployment stats today, are still twice as likely to be unemployed than someone over the age of 24. Nonetheless, we have to consider the needs of older people, and I suppose by that I mean people from 25 upwards to retirement. And the Employability Fund does do that, because the Employability Fund replaces the large national training programmes such as Get Ready for Work, targeted at young people, but also Training for Work, which is targeted at people 18 and upwards. But the purpose of the Employability Fund is to bring together funding streams so that there can be a more collegiate working at a local level, and to consider the needs of people trying to enter the labour market at that local level. So while it's a large focus on young people, it's most certainly not to the exclusion of others.
Thank you. Gordon MacDonald.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Does the Minister agree with me that the latest labour market stats showing a 4,000 fall in Scottish unemployment is evidence that Scotland is taking the right approach to tackling youth unemployment?
Minister.
I think, and I know the statistics just came out today, but in terms of the headline unemployment figures, unemployment has fallen by 11,000 in Scotland. Of course, the figures for young people are indeed very encouraging, and the youth unemployment rate has fallen by 6.8%. We have the lowest rate of youth unemployment that we've had in 3 years. However, that still means that we have 65,000 young Scots seeking to find their way into work, and there is, of course, far more to do. So I believe firmly that the Government's policy on colleges, modern apprenticeships, job creation schemes such as Community Jobs Scotland, where we've invested £29 million, and, of course, moving forward for this year, the Youth Employment Scotland, the employer recruitment incentive for small to medium businesses is, of course, very important. But now is not the time to take our foot off the gas, and we must not be blown off course by others elsewhere.
Question 12, Bill Kidd.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what guidelines are in place to ensure that schools are properly maintained, including with regard to their heating and ventilation.
Minister Alistair Allen.
The statutory environmental requirements for Scottish schools are contained in the School Premises General Requirements and Standards Scotland Regulations 1967. These regulations, which apply to all schools, prescribe standards for a range of environmental factors, including heating and ventilation. It is for local authorities to take the necessary action to comply with the regulations. Further guidance for local authorities on internal environmental conditions in schools can be found in the Government's publication School Design Optimising the Internal Environment, Building Our Future, Scotland Schools Estate, which is available on the Scottish Government website.
Bill Kidd.
I thank the Minister for his helpful reply. I have particular constituency concerns, as I have a number of primary schools in Glasgow Anniesland where the fabric of buildings are below the standards which parents or staff find acceptable, and indeed in one school the central heating system broke down this winter and was substituted with mobile gas fires, which I think are potentially unsafe in this circumstance.
Minister.
Well, again, this is a matter primarily for the local authority, although I do know that the member has been very diligent on this issue and has, I know in the past, raised with me the situation of 3 schools in his constituency, those being Broomhill, Corpus Christi and Blairdardy, regarding the condition and suitability of the buildings, all 3 of which are described as poor. I should say that my understanding is that Glasgow City Council is in the process of renewing such buildings. I do not, however, have a timescale for that process, and that's for the member to discuss with the local authority. Ultimately, if the member has concerns about the safety of a building, it is something he may wish to take up with the Health and Safety Executive, but it's primarily something he should speak to the local authority about.
Thank you. Question 13, James Kelly.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what the objectives are of the ongoing college merger process.
Minister Angela Constance.
The Presiding Officer, the objectives are twofold: to better meet the needs of learners and employers in a region, and to do so more cost efficiently. Decisions to pursue college mergers, while ultimately requiring ministerial approval, are for the governing body of the institutions concerned. We have made clear that we will not force any colleges to merge.
James Kelly.
I thank the Minister for that answer. The Minister will be aware of the proposal to merge Anniesland, Langside and Cardonald colleges, which affect constituents in my area. In terms of money saved for that proposal, can the Minister state specifically how much money that would save, and also what account has been taken of travel difficulties for people having to move further to a centralised location in order to further their education?
Minister.
The member mentions issues in and around transport, and that is, of course, very important. Colleges are able to give financial support to students who have difficulty meeting the cost of travel. We, of course, have the best student support package anywhere in the United Kingdom, and for the second year in a running, £95 million is being invested in student support. In terms of regionalisation and mergers, I have already given figures with regards to an earlier answer, figures that came from Audit Scotland, saying that from 2014-15 there would be annual savings of £50 million across the estate, across Scotland. That can only be of benefit to learners in Mr Kelly's area and indeed elsewhere in Scotland. The experience of the Glasgow merger, of course, also gives a positive indication of financial savings as well, of £5.8 million. And again, I reiterate that practice and the potential for financial savings is of a benefit to learners in any area.
Thank you. George Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can the Minister outline how much more in cash terms has been spent on colleges by this SNP administration than under the previous 2 terms of the Labour Lib Dem administration?
Minister.
My recollection is that after the budget, where an additional £61 million over a 2-year period, in addition to planned budgets, will be invested in the sector, that figure in terms of cash terms that Mr Adams seeks is a 45% increase. So we are indeed investing more resources than our predecessors. And indeed, the good news for college is that there is a funding floor for colleges at £522 million, and of course that's more than in each and every year of our predecessors, who never got to more than £510 million. So despite these times of austerity, thanks to the UK Government, we are indeed spending more in the college sector, not just in terms of teaching and revenue budgets, but we're also spending more in terms of capital, and we're spending 50% more in terms of capital.
Hugh Henry, briefly, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. James Kelly asked the specific question about how much would be saved from the merger of the 3 colleges, which he identified. The Minister indicated she knew the global figure. You can only get a global figure when you add individual figures together. Will she now give the specific answer how much will be saved by that merger?
Minister.
If Mr Henry would wish such a detailed answer, we will of course do our best to endeavour in writing.
Thank you very much. Question 14, Aileen MacLeod.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what support is available to ensure that the university, college and SME sectors in Scotland are well placed to take advantage of the opportunities under the EU's Horizon 2020 funding programme.
Sir Alistair Allen.
There are currently a number of initiatives in place to ensure Scotland is ready for the advent of Horizon 2020. A multi-agency steering group was established in 2010 to ensure that the support mechanisms were in place for Scottish organisations wishing to engage in EU research and development programmes, and to coordinate Scottish responses to developments to existing and future research and development programmes. Key elements of the support available are a series of roadshows through the spring and summer of this year, and the introduction of an innovation voucher scheme specifically to support small and medium-sized enterprises to engage with Horizon 2020.
Aileen MacLeod.
I can thank the Minister for that comprehensive answer. Does the Minister agree that the engagement of Scottish universities in large-scale European projects is a benefit not just to the university sector, but also the broader Scottish economy, and in particular the concentration of excellence in our Scottish university base allows Scotland to lead an EIT kick bid in the forthcoming call for proposals?
Minister.
Yes, I can certainly agree wholeheartedly that we have a truly excellent research base in Scotland, and there are certainly obvious synergies between the ambitions of our own innovation centres and the European Institute of Technology's KIC programme. Both of these certainly seek to support successful collaborations between industry, academia and businesses to address some of the significant societal and technological challenges that we are facing. So these are endeavours that the Scottish Government certainly gives strong moral support to, and I am sure it's support that the UK Government, as Member State, would wish to give as well.
Thank you. Question 15, Siobhan McMahon.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what educational programmes there are to help schools tackle sectarianism.
Minister Alistair Allen.
We are aware of a number of educational programmes to help schools tackle sectarianism. The promotion of diversity and equality is an important element of Curriculum for Excellence. Education Scotland, the national body for supporting quality improvement in Scottish education, promotes diversity and equality in its work and has a specific work stream on combating sectarianism. This work focuses on identifying and sharing good practices, reviewing and improving resources and engaging in professional dialogue across education in Scotland. All approved resources are available directly from the Education Scotland website.
Siobhan McMahon.
Thank you. Does the Minister agree with me that education is a key to tackling sectarianism amongst young people? And is he aware of the Mark Scott Leadership for Life Award, which has, over the last 15 years, helped to bring together young people often separated by different backgrounds, sectarianism, racism or territorialism? And will he join me in congratulating the pupils of Kirknewman High School and Bellsill Academy who successfully took part in the Mark Scott Leadership Award community project?
Minister.
I am very happy to join with the member in congratulating that and all other efforts in our schools to combat sectarianism. I've been struck on a number of visits that I've had recently to schools. I've been struck by the enthusiasm which many pupils have shown for projects such as the novel Divided City, which engages young people in the issues around sectarianism. So I'm more than happy to agree that these are all efforts to be applauded.
Thank you. Question 16, Helen Eadie.
Government, how many part-time students have enrolled in 5 colleges since 2007?
Minister Angela Constance.
Presiding Officer, according to the Scottish Funding Council, the total number of part-time students who have studied at colleges in Fife in the 6 academic years ending in 2011 and 12 is 19,280.
Helen Eadie.
Does the Minister share with me that in Lochgelly, which is one of the most deprived and poverty-stricken areas in Scotland, now faces the closure of the training centre facility there, and that the Cabinet Secretary has declined to make any intervention and instead advised me to speak to the Scottish Funding Council, who have simply not responded after 3 weeks? How does she intend to address the fact that women in that area, who are the most seriously impacted upon in the global economic crisis, how does she intend to address the fact that we will no longer have this training facility?
Minister.
I'll certainly give Mrs Eadie an undertaking that either myself or one of my officials will contact the Scottish Funding Council and ask them to make contact with Mrs Eadie. With regards to women in education and in the college sector, it is worth noting that the majority of learners in the college sector are women. It's 170,000 roughly compared to 150,000 male learners, and that most courses continue to be part-time, which is of an advantage to some women. As I said, Presiding Officer, I'll ask the Scottish Funding Council to contact Mrs Eadie direct.
Thank you. Joan McAlpine.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome the recent audit from the Scottish Government and Scottish Funding Council showing claims of large numbers of students in college waiting lists to be false. Can the Minister outline what work has been done to further improve and streamline the college application process?
Minister.
Joan McAlpine raises an important point, a valid point. Our audit highlighted an inconsistency in college application and admissions processes, particularly on how well applicants are informed about those processes at various stages. And our audit also showed that informed decisions about choosing the right course, gaining the right qualification, qualification or moving on to further learning or work, that's absolutely central to the success of any learner of any age. And that's why, in collaboration with colleges and learners, that we are exploring how best to improve the application processes. And I'm very pleased that Colleges Scotland recognises that there is indeed much room for improvement and indeed is willing and able to work with the Government on this matter.
Thank you. Question 17, Nigel Donne.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how it will ensure that the Students' Awards Agency for Scotland will pay claimants promptly in the next academic year.
Minister Angela Constance.
Presiding Officer, SAS supported nearly 160,000 students in 2012-13, providing tuition and living cost support of around £570 million. We have the best student support package available anywhere in the UK, and the simplification of the system announced last August will make processing applications quicker and easier. The system for this year opened on the 15th of April, and students are encouraged to apply as early as possible.
Major Don, briefly, please.
I'm sure the Cabinet Secretary would agree with me that the improvements and simplification the Minister will want to agree that the simplifications last year are very welcome. I wonder if she has any time to outline how that new system will work, please.
I mean, perhaps, Presiding Officer, don't have time to do Mr Don's question justice, other than to say, for the benefit of Parliament, that the new system will be dramatically simpler for all students, and that in part is to do with there only being 4 levels of awards, and that what we are striving for is for students to have access to more money and to know in advance how much that will be.
Excellent. And that concludes portfolio questions. And we'll now move to the next item of business, which is a debate on motion number 619.